Nifty holding tight above that 18,000 mark. From the lows, there has been a recovery of 80 points, but we're still about 80 points away from our all-time high levels. The Nifty has picked up some pace, so now it's up around 50-odd points.
The Nifty is testing the 18,170 level. This is the level we put out in the morning. It's a quiet close, 18 points lower, 18,114, but with enough activity in the broader market.
Hello and welcome to CNBC TV 18. You're watching Markets Today, the show where we track 6 hours of the day's trading action in 5 headlines. I'm Sonia, and these are all the top headlines for the day. A day of range-bound trade on the Lal Street sees the Nifty and the Sensex end flat. The Nifty Bank falls in line with the benchmarks, but the mid-caps outperform. PSU banks lead from the front. Russia plans to curb exports to countries imposing price caps from February, pushes crude oil prices closer to 3-week highs. Expectations of increased demand from China also provides a fillip. Canara Bank CEO tells CNBC TV 18 that Canfin Homes will get a new CEO before the fiscal end, adds that the home financer won't raise capital this fiscal. And Reliance completes 20 years of double-digit growth since Mukesh Ambani took over as chairman. The behemoth now eyes the spot of the world's lowest cost producer of solar energy and green hydrogen. India Pesticides jumps 9% after getting an environmental clearance to set up an agrochemical plant in Uttar Pradesh. RBNL closes 5% higher after it bags an international project worth 1,545 crores. Meanwhile, positive brokerage commentary helps Page Industries gain 2%. Well, here's the lineup of what we have in store for you. It's a packed show today. In Market Opinion, we have Gary Schlossberg of Wells Fargo Investment Institute, and in Corporate Voices, we have LV Prabhakar of Canara Bank talking about the new head of Canfin Homes as well as the way forward for the bank itself. Well, on to the day's trading action. A range-bound session saw the Nifty and the Sensex end flat with a slight negative bias. The Nifty Bank fell in line with the benchmarks, but the mid-caps fared better. PSU banks led from the front today. Prashant is here to give us all the details. Prashant.
After 2 days of very strong pullback, the market consolidating a little bit. The Nifty ending down by about 20-25 points, but not before kind of knocking into an important level, which I'll come to in a bit. The banks also corrected a little bit more than the Nifty. Sectorally, there wasn't really one big pocket of gain or losses. It was more kind of distributed. Large cap gains coming through in names like Titan, Mahindra & Mahindra, Power Grid and Maruti. Actually, only 4 Nifty stocks ending with gains of more than 1%. Losses coming through, again, nothing large, but Bharti, Apollo Hospitals, Bajaj Finserv are names which lost in today's session. Broader markets, I mean, a little bit here, a little bit there. No directional move on the mid-cap and the small-cap indices. Market breadth, though, was positive, but not, I mean, in a huge way. Mid-cap gains, fertilizer stocks, as you can see on your screen, RCF, FACT, etc., did very well. GIC RE is come back into rotation. Adani Total, Ircon, you had Indian Pesticides, Lodha, which is Macrotech developers, Saregama and Devyani Foods, if I can name those which moved higher on the back of stronger volumes. PSU banks have had it very volatile. And today, in the last 30 minutes, they sold off quite aggressively. So IOB, Union Bank, Bank of India, actually, if you look at the Nifty PSU Bank Index, it's a sharp fall between 3 and 3:30 today. As I said, the Nifty's had a quiet session, much needed after all of the volatility the last 4 days. Thursday and Friday last week when the markets corrected, and of course the bounce we had over Tuesday and Monday and Tuesday. Today was quieter. The Nifty is also left off after hitting the trend line all the way from June lows, which is at 18,170, which becomes the immediate level to take out on the upside if the market has got to do more from here on. Back to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Prashant, for that. Well, moving on, the euphoria around China is shaping the performance of emerging markets, says Gary Schlossberg, global strategist at Wells Fargo Investment Institute. He adds that attractive valuations in China are a potential headwind for India. Take a look.
Well, we see an erosion in the outlook for India. Certainly no major change, but the delayed effect of interest rates, oil prices moving up, But a lot is riding on the outlook for China. There's a lot of euphoria right now. The country, the government has pulled back on that zero COVID policy. But for the next several months at least, there is going to be uncertainty as infection rates rise, what impact that will have on consumers, to some extent on supply chains as well. But I would say over the course of 2023, an erosion in India's standing. Valuations, of course, quite rich right now. That could create something of a headwind. But again, I think the operative word is erosion rather than a full-blown pullback relative to other emerging markets. Well, certainly the attractive valuations, China relative to India at an extreme, is a potential headwind for India.
All right, sticking with market opinion, we have Ashwini Agarwal of Demeter Advisors, who says he continues to be positive on the banking space. Listen in to what he had to say.
I was just thinking through what to expect from 2023, and I think it's going to be a story of normalization. China and the rate policy, I think, will start to normalize. At least the pace of future hikes will stop. So with this backdrop, if you zoom out and think about it, you have to accept that real interest rates in the positive territory do provide retail investors in India a real option to invest in fixed income, as opposed to only equities. That has been the prevailing trend for nearly 5-7 years in India and nearly a decade in the West. I remain positive on the banks because, despite the sell-off that we've seen over the last week or so, I think, it is a sectoral turn in fortunes, which is a multi-year cycle. And I don't think we should be too early to give up on that cycle just yet. Credit growth is looking good, spreads are looking healthy, and credit costs are way below trend. And I don't think the estimates capture everything right now. So I think I would continue to stay positive on the banks.
All right, to the second headline now. Crude prices inch closer to 3-month highs as Russia is planning to curb exports to countries imposing price caps from February. Manisha Gupta is here with more on the triggers pushing crude higher. Manisha, over to you.
Well, even as the participation is low and so is the volume, but we are looking at active trading continuing in case of the crude oil prices there. For the year, both the varieties, WTI and Brent, are up anywhere between 5 to 8%. And the reasons for the gains are, one, China saying that they are going to stop quarantining the inbound travelers from nearly 8th of Jan. So that means there is more opening up there, and you will see jet fuel and transportation fuel see some gain in demand there. The second is Russia's statements, which continue to keep the contract alive. Russia has said that they would stop providing crude from 1st of Feb to the countries which are participating into the price cap, including G7 there. Also, there is an expectation that Russia will cut output between 5 to 7% in the first quarter of 2023. That is keeping support in prices. The reason that you haven't seen a run-up in prices is because even as US has just recently gone through a snowstorm, Elliott, but the expectations are that for the month of January, it is going to be a moderately warm weather, and a lot of oil and gas pipe freeze seems to be coming back. The refineries are also resuming operations, and that is keeping the prices in check there. But for the next year then, markets are anticipating but that by the second half of 2023, you will see a lot of normalization and demand coming back into the markets. China, remember, is the largest importer and second largest consumer of crude oil, and with China coming into the markets, a lot of support could be coming in from there. So you have the likes of UBS, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, all believing and forecasting that $100 to $110 per barrel in case of crude oil prices is possible in the next year.
All right, Manisha, thanks a lot for that. Well, the third headline today, Canfin Homes will get a new CEO before the fiscal ends. That's the word coming in from Canara Bank's Managing Director, LV Prabhakar. In a chat with CNBC TV 18, Prabhakar said that the home financer won't raise capital this fiscal. Remember, Canara Bank's stock has had a decent run-up this year, up over 50%. Listen in to what the management had to say.
The MD CEO will be assuming the charge maybe before this financial year. And he will be from the industry and he will be from the same financial sector. So we have no doubt about the performance of the Canfin Homes, and the attrition which we are seeing is common. And I see a lot of valuations in my subsidiaries. Going forward, I'll get at least 5 to 6x times what I'm going to get today. And financial year 23-24, I think it will be a very good year for the financial sector, especially for the banks. And I am more bullish on the public sector banks. Credit September, you have seen Canara Bank has grown at 20% YoY growth in credit. Now coming to the liability side. 7th October, I have increased the retail term deposit rate to 7% for general public, 7.5% for the senior citizens, when the market rate was only 6%, 5.8%. In 3 weeks, we have garnered huge amount of retail term deposits under 666 scheme, that is 660-day scheme, and also 1 year, 1.5 years, 5 years.
All right, well, NSE indices, namely the Nifty 50, the Nifty Bank and the Nifty BSE Index, will see weighted changes effective from the 30th of December. This is likely to lead to significant inflows and outflows in certain stocks. Vivek is here to tell us more about that. Vivek, over to you.
Well, that's right. So, this is actually the passive funds, the domestic passive funds that will mainly have to make these changes. These funds track the weight reductions, the weight additions, as well as index constituent changes that typically happen across all of the indices you just mentioned. So what we're actually doing is, this particular time, there are no index constituent changes. Rather, there are some of the key weight reductions or weight additions that we're trying to highlight. So coming to the Nifty 50, the key additions in terms of weightage are in HDFC Life and Bharti Airtel. So expect $9 and $18 million respectively of inflows into this particular names. Remember, the changes will happen, or the actual buying and selling will happen in tomorrow's trading session, effective day after tomorrow. Weight reductions, as far as the Nifty is concerned, Bajaj Finserv and Bajaj Auto, $34 and $20 million of outflows respectively. Now coming to the Nifty Bank Index, some interesting names here. IndusInd Bank, AU Bank and Federal Bank will see weight increases and flows of close to $20, $10 and $12 million of inflows into respectively into these names. On the other hand, Axis Bank is likely to see slightly significant weight reduction of almost $80 million of outflow, and SBI close to $32 million of outflow. Now coming to the Nifty BSE Index, NTPC and Power Grid will see weight additions, approximately $12 million of inflows each. ONGC will see a slightly material change of close to $21 million of outflow.
All right, Vivek, thanks a lot for that. Well, let's take a quick commercial break on that note. We'll be back in a jiffy with all the other big headlines of the day. Stay tuned.
Life